Hello and welcome to Cool Jazz Cafe, the Summer Series 2013. I'm Diane, Dayton. Right now we're at the beautiful amphitheater at Longs Park in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a part of the free concert series, 7:30 each Sunday night. It's a great series. July 14th, here you are, Greg Adams and East Bay Soul.
In the heat of it all.
In the heat of it all, for sure.
Boy.
I'm so glad you came to this coast to perform for us.
Well, you know, we've been expanding with this new band I have. It's not really new, but we're on our second record. It's called East Bay Soul. And the way I visualize and conceptualize this record was I was always a fan of the ensemble project, of course, because of my roots with Tower of Power, and I was the arranger for that band for 25 years. And I joined in 1970, and I left in 95, and have carved out a I guess, respectable smooth jazz solo career, but I always tried to do something different with each new record, you know. And with the East Bay Soul, it was like I can go back to my roots, which is a large ensemble. It's a 10-piece band. We have a lead singer who also plays sax, so we have a 5-piece horn section when he's not singing, and it's kind of like, it's, for me, it's second nature. I mean, I love playing with it. It's an orchestra, and I love to write for an orchestra. So, and the impact that it has on an audience is really great, and you can see it on people's faces immediately. No tracks, no nothing. It's all what you see is what you get. And to tell you the truth, the musicians that I'm working with are some of the finest musicians that I've ever played with in my life, and many of them have been with me for like 13, 14 years to begin with. So with added horns and like on lead trumpet next to me is Lee Thornburg, my old bandmate from Tower. And we were always like this when we played. We had great chemistry. So it's great to have him in the band. On the end, on baritone sax, my dear friend Johnny Beaumont, we went to high school together, and that was a century ago. So, you know, and it's great. And, you know, because of the bands being so big, I have to have a deep bench. And I'm using some subs tonight. They're no less than my A team. But, you know, guys get summer gigs and they're out on tour, and so, but the band never suffers. It's always a great band. I would never shortchange anybody, but this is a lovely venue tonight, and I hope we do well with the crowd. It's a great city. I played in Lancaster years ago with Tower, but not with this band, so we're hoping the folks come out tonight and enjoy it.
Well, I think you're probably going to find them out on that dance floor we have out in
the green
front.
dance floor.
And one right
here.
Oh,
is right? Yeah, okay,
there's one there too.
Yeah.
You are billed as a mega funk group. What does that entail?
Well, you know, we cover a lot of ground. I mean, we do old school, we do funk, jazz, R&B. It's like, because it's an orchestra, it can do a lot. It has a lot of voices. And so, instrumentally, everybody's a soloist. We do Latin, because we have a great Latin percussionist, Johnny Sandoval. And so, it really is a multimedia group, you know. We do a lot of stuff, and I think that's what we have something for everybody, you know. So it's and I kind of equate it to, you know, since I wrote for Tower of Power for so many years, you know, this is like East Bay Soul is a style of a group that I helped invent. Now it's 2013, and I really think that you got to move with the times, and I think this group represents a future that a lot of young people are coming back and enjoying. It's like, you know, music is cyclical, you know, and this is coming around, just like the fatigue combat pants are coming back. I used to love those, and when they went to skinny jeans, I went, wait, you know, and they're coming back. I think maybe this style of music is coming back. You know, it's what I do, so, and it's what I do the best, and what I enjoy doing the best. And it, you know, what's that old saying where you don't have to work for a living when you really enjoy what you're doing. It's not work. It's fun. And so I've been in this business for,
it's like 4 decades.
Yes,
something.
Yeah, about that, yeah, and a little over. But you know, I've had a great career, and I've worked with so many people, hundreds of sessions with other artists.
All different genres too.
Yeah, you know, a few years ago I worked with Celine Dion, and that was really a treat. And but I've worked with Santana and the Stones and Dionne Warwick and the Eurythmics and Little Feat, and you know, I say it. I've worked with everybody, but I can't even remember. You know, I have to like have a cheat sheet in front of me to remember. But you know, it's great. I now with the internet and mailing files to around the world, I do a lot of recording sessions in Encino, California. But it's a German artist who sent the files. I go in the studio. I play a solo. We mail the files back. So it's like I can go around the world. I can do Tokyo and Germany and London in one day, and I've done that. You know, so it's interesting, and so I've end up on a lot more albums even than before, because physically I don't have to go anywhere. I just drive 5 minutes from my house to the studio, and I'm there.
If you were to make a wild guess in your whole career, do you have any idea how many albums you were on?
Well, a few years ago it was about 500, but you know, that was a few years ago. You know, it's hard to tell. Maybe 600, 700, maybe. Wow. You know, I mean, then there's the ones I've forgotten about. You know, that I wanted to forget about, that I don't even put in my discography. But you know, it's a great way, as I said, to make a living, because it's something I love to do.
Well, you were one of the founding members with the quintessential horn band Tower Power, and I think, was it like 14 albums you did with them, and something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I left in '95, and you know, that's how a lot of the sessions came about with other artists, because the sound that the band had with the horn section, they wanted that, and they would come to us, and we would work out of the record plant in Sausalito, California, and you know, I worked with George Martin, you know, Sir George Martin, I might have to say, which was a thrill, and we did it's kind of a dog of a movie, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, but working with George, or Sir George, was like a thrill, and he wanted me to do the arranging. So, you know, that was a thrill to be able to work and give him my sound, because that's the sound they wanted. He said I would have used British horn players if I was going to do this myself, but the Bee Gees wanted us to be in on it, so that's how it happens.
How would you describe your sound?
You know, it's jazz, rhythm and blues, funk, with, I don't know, it's so derivative. How can you, it's a hard, it's chameleon-ish, or chameleon-esque, I guess. And that's one of the things that I think has made me able to play with so many different artists of different genres and different styles, and I can kind of adapt to what they're looking for, and a lot of times I'm really fortunate that they've said, well, what do you want here? They said, I want you to do what you do on my record. I said, okay, well, that makes my job easy. You know, you know, to write for Heart, when we did in the 80s, and we were touring with them, the horn section, and it was like, you know, what are we doing up here with this rock band? And we, you know, we made it work, and they loved what we did with it, and so, you know, that going from Heart to Dionne Warwick to Melissa Manchester to the Eurythmics, and that's how we've covered so many bases. You know, we worked with Josh Groban. That wasn't Tower, although they did credit the Tower Power horn section for being on Josh Groban's record. It was Lee Thornburg and myself, but nobody else from Tower Power. And we were like, wait a minute. And they said, no, don't worry, we'll fix it in the second million of you know, the reprints. And but you know, I can never escape it. It's my legacy, and you know, I took my sound when I left, and they've tried to mimic it or find somebody who can do it, and I don't think they found it. You know, I don't you know, brag about it, but I think it's tough.
I love horns, so I gravitated to Tower of Power and what you were doing, and I loved watching all of these incarnations that you've been doing with your life after Tower. When it comes to doing these arrangements, where do you go in your head to do that?
Well,
It's your heart too.
Yeah, it just flows. I mean, I hear things. I'll get I'll write a song. Now, in many instances, now that I've not only an arranger with my own solo career, I write the songs that I'm going to arrange, and so that's been a really great process. And so in the fact that I'm doing an arrangement, well, I'm already steps ahead with the arrangement when I'm writing the song. So I know, okay, now when we finish this part, we're going to go here. I know what I'm going to have the saxes do, or I'm going to have strings in this part. I can kind of visualize it, and then I just put it on paper. I really rarely use a piano to arrange. I just kind of let it go, because that's my forte, or my whatever you want to call it. I can just do this, and it's hard to explain. I try to teach arranging classes, and they just have to bear with me. I'm going to try to tell you how I do this, and we listen to a lot of examples of my work, and we'll look at the scores and I'll see how I wrote that voicing for the trombones or the strings or whatever, and they just have to get it, because I can only explain it so far. I'm a natural, and I'm lucky to be a natural.
And I know music education is very important to you.
Absolutely.
It's very important to our kids. It's essential.
Absolutely.
For so many reasons.
Oh yeah, and it's really because of the funding or the defunding of music in public schools, the arts in general. It's really, the kids have really taken it on the chin, and I'm a real product of public school music departments, so I really that's where I got my chance to learn how to write, and we had a great, real strong music department where I went to high school, and that's where I started to write. I wrote for the jazz band, and I learned by my mistakes. I really never had a teacher. I just wrote a thing and put it in front of the band, and if it stunk, it stunk. If I got some success, oh good, I'll try that again on something else in next week or something. But music is a language. It's like taking Spanish or Italian or French in school. It's a conversation when you play in a group of musicians, and the better you can speak the language, the better you communicate. And you only can get better at communicating is if you practice and you have conversations. And jazz is the most off the cuff and ad lib kind of it's a stream of consciousness. So you can have the orchestra playing a Beethoven piece, and that's the beauty in that. It's one, but you get a tenor sax and a trumpet and a rhythm section, and you just kind of throw it around, and converse, So that's the language of music, and also they say in school, kids that take music are better at math, and they're better at social skills. They're more well-rounded. So I've said it.
We need to support the schools that have the programs, and also create after-school programs when they're not in the schools, because it is necessary. Absolutely.
Get it wherever you can.
That's right.
Find the money.
One final thing. Is there anything that we don't know about you that you want us to know, or that we haven't covered that you think is important? Do you want to share?
I'm a pretty open book. There's so many things I'd love to conduct a symphony orchestra, which I've never done. I've conducted big orchestras, but I'd really like to, conduct a 94-piece band one day. And, if there was one thing I could do and go back in time, it would be to be a fly on the wall when Nelson Riddle was working with Frank Sinatra at Capitol Records. And I work in that room constantly. It's still a very active studio. It's in the Capitol building, the round Capitol Records building in Hollywood. And just recently, we attended a memorial for Phil Ramone, the great producer who passed away suddenly. And he was a very, very well-loved man. And this service, it was a remembrance for Phil. Everybody was there. Burt Bacharach got up and sang "A House Is Not a Home," just on the piano. It wasn't a dry eye, and you could heard a pin drop in the room. And everybody kind of got up who had worked with Phil and gave a little story about this and that. And afterwards, I had never met Burt. I'd seen him in concert, so I'm going to just go up and say hello, introduce myself. And I said, "Hi, Burt, my name's Greg Adams." And I used to play in a band called Tower. Great horn section. You mean you know about me? You're the arranger. That to me, wow. That was my moment with Burt Bacharach.
That's very cool.
But to go back in time in Capitol Records and sitting on those sessions, like in the 40s, and because Nelson Riddle is one of my favorite arrangers, and I absorbed a lot from him, especially when I write for strings. And all those great songs recorded with Frank Sinatra are just the gems. That's the best stuff. I mean, I may sound dated, but the musicality of all that stuff is just, and
it's timeless.
Oh yeah, it's I love that kind of stuff. So I think sometimes I could say I was born in a different time. My wife Andrea would say, you would have been great in the 40s, with all the big bands and all that kind of stuff. I would have been in my element, because I like the big band.
Yeah.
I can't support a big band, a full big band. That's crazy. That's for Gordon Goodwin. But it's been a great career, and I've loved every minute. Well, not every minute, but the road can be tough.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear you tonight, because we are going to be in the element with you.
Yeah.
And we're going to be out there moving and grooving with a lot of mega funk.
Well,
we can find all of your CDs in the usual outlets.
Yes.
But to find out more about where you're touring and more about you, your website is?
It's GregAdams2013.com.
.com.
No,
Okay.
not GregAdams.com. It's GregAdams2013.com.
Okay.
There you get everything. The tour schedule, how to get to East Bay Soul, Facebook, we're everywhere now.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
I mean, I can't keep up with it all.
Yep.
And I don't even try.
Yep.
But you can find out more and everything about me, probably stuff I don't know.
Thank you so much for
You
taking
bet, Diane.
time today.
It's always great to talk to you.
It is so good to talk to you, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to check out the show
Oh,
tonight.
thanks. Well, I hope you enjoy it.
This is Cool Jazz Cafe, the Summer Series 2013, Longs Park in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.